Alright, welcome back. In these videos, we're going to add the ability to use some items in our code or in our game. What it's going to look like is, let's go ahead and press play. Right now you'll see that my stats HP is 20. So if I go back and I press items, click on the potion and press use, we're going to see what it says there. And if I do it again, it fills up. If I do it again now that I'm full, it's grayed out and it won't let me use it. So, just to show you that it did fill it up all the way, if I click on stats again, you'll see that it's 100. So, let's get to building. Alright, real quick, somebody commented on having some issues with the light showing. So what they're getting, from what I gather, is something that looks like this, right? And they had some issues even when they were rotating the light or moving the light, raising in the intensity. So let's take care of that real quick. Let me stop here with our town selected. I'm going to add a child node. I'm going to do a search for light. Make sure that you are choosing a 3D light because we're in a 3D game. So I'm going to use the 3D directional light. You can use some of these other lights, but I would not recommend it. Directional light is going to be the best for this because if you read down here, it's directional light from a distance as from the sun. So that's going to be the best for choosing the outdoor light. Press create, and now your scene's going to change a little bit because it's the lights in the scene. Let's go ahead and move this up a little bit and focus in on it. You can see the directional arrow here is pointing naturally horizontally off to the left in the X. What we need to do is just rotate it downward at whatever angle you want the light to come from, and then you'll be able to see it adjusting from there. And make sure your sky mode is set to light and sky, because then if you do light only, it'll only affect the light. Do sky only, and you're only going to get the brightness from the sky. We'll actually look at each of those. Let's start with sky only. Press play. See, it's still dark. So now if we switch it to light and sky and refresh it, you'll see that the light is now showing, which is how it should look. If we switch it to light only, and you'll see that, but you don't see the little sky out there. So we'll keep it up light and sky. And that's weird, you still don't see the little sky out there. I have to fix that. Figure that out, but that's how you get the light going. Now on to the rest of the video. Now to get this set up for the inventory to work, we're going to go into our inventory UI. We're going to add a few things here. In our HBox panel, go ahead and press Control A. We're going to do a search for a button. This is going to be our use button. So we're going to name it use button. And as you may have noticed, I added some text in there to the label and to the close button. So we're going to go ahead and add use right there. The way it pops up as such, in our inventory panel, we're going to press Control A. We're going to add a new label. We're also going to, in our inventory panel, add a timer. Alright, this is going to be a timer for the message that pops up. So we're going to call this toast label. And we're going to hide it. We're going to call this timer toast timer. So if you haven't already done so, go ahead and download the code from the linked Google Drive file. And let's start getting into it. So what we have here is an update in our StatsResources.gd. What we're going to do is this first function is a heal HP function, and what it's doing is in this one It's ignoring, it's a set up as a guard to ignore non-positive inputs. So in case we mess up with how much it should heal, right? Then it's gonna ignore it. Here, what this line is gonna do is another guard, where if your HP is already full, then it's not gonna do anything, right? This line right here is how much was left before hitting the max HP. Then we have here is saying if it's once it applies the missing HP, then the applied is going to equal the missing HP. That way we don't overheal, and the cap is set at the maximum. So here what we have is actually applying the healing part of that process. And then this is just set up as an extra safety clamp to ensure that we don't go over the max HP, right? And then here, this is just going to pass how much was healed to the toast label. So when it pops up, it'll say healed, and then, for example, in ours, it'll say plus 50 HP, right? And then down here for our MP is really just the same thing, but specifically for our magic points. Now moving up to our inventory item script. So in our inventory items, what we updated was we added an enum type. This will classify the item at a high level and will allow your UI and logic to quickly decide if the use button should be enabled or not. We added consumable, which means it can be used right now, so like potions or ethers, or item equipment, which is non-usable items that would be equipped elsewhere. We also added another enumerator called effect kind. So what this does is it declares what the item will actually do. So if there's no effect, then we set it to 0. If it was meant to heal HP, then we set it to 1. If it's meant to heal MP, we'll set it to 2. If it's meant to revive, then we'll have it to 3, which will bring a KO'd character back to life, which we haven't added those items. We've only added ethers and potions, as well as some equipment. So, but we have it there for you guys to use in your games. Next, we added an inventory type, which shows the item's type in the inspector, right? So that you guys can set designers can set it per item. We also added an effect kind, which will tell the game which stat to affect. So, for example, heal HP, right? And then how much to heal, in this case 50. So these are default sets. You can definitely generalize them if you'd like to. So if you have like small potions, large potions, you'll be able to you can change these as desired, and then hard code exactly what each item type will do. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the changes in our inventory UI. There are a lot of them, so please be patient and bear with me during this explanation process. Alright, in our inventory UI, so we added some new variables here up at the top. A variable that will, where is it? There they are. For our use button, toast label, toast timer, we added our autoload instance, and we had to call it ItemEffects too, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. We also added these to help drive the user flow from the what's it called? From the time that you click the item in the inventory panel, it determines to determine whether it's a valid item, blah 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 blah, use it, etc. Right? But down here, is where all that really takes place under this new addition in our ready function. So what happens is it's going to check to make sure that we actually clicked a button. We're going to check to make sure that the item can be used, and if it can be used, then it will use it, right? And then our toast label will start off as hidden by default. If the item's used, then this will switch to true, and then the timer will start. Once the timer finishes, then this will switch back to false, and then the little message will disappear on its own. So in our where is it? Use refresh button. There it is. So here's what happens here, right? It's gonna basically everything I just said up top, right? Must have. The goal for this is to prevent double clicks and prevent item waste, right? So it's gonna automatically check to see if it's null. If it's null, then it's not gonna do anything. If the selected item is null, so if there's no selection, then it's gonna make sure that the use button is disabled, right? If the item is consumable, right? So it's gonna check it to see if it's consumable. Then it will allow us to click the button and use the item. So in on use is pressed, it's gonna check to see if there's no item selected, then there's not gonna be any toast, right? There's not gonna be any item that's selected used, right? So these are the different things, toast messages that can pop up, right? So if the item is selected as null, then no item selected. If the item is not consumable, then it's going to say that item can't be used. And if the ItemEffects equals null, then it's going to say the item system's not loaded, which means it's basically, this is just like if there's an error for like if you added item but didn't tell it what it should do, then that's the message that should pop up. Alright. Now, if ItemEffects can be applied, if it can't be applied to the player. So, for example, if the HP is full, then you'll get that. If the MP is full, you'll get that. If it's something that is for a revival effect and he's already away live, then you should get that. This one I put in place in case you guys wanted to use key items. I have like special items that can have to be used in a certain area. Then you'll have that as a little backup or a starter, so to speak. So here's where the feedback is for stuff that's used. For example, when it's healing the HP, then you'll get that the toast function will play. It'll say used, and then our item, it'll say plus however much HP, right? And it'll pass through the item name and the item amount, right? And it'll do the same thing here with the MP, and here's the same thing with the revival. Okay, and then again, if you guys wanted to add more stuff, right? So like antidotes and stuff like that, then you could use that as a starter here to fix and get that going. So here in our consume selected inventory from item from the inventory, we kind of made it very flexible. That was kind of the goal here. And so if you know your exact function, for example, game state.inventory.remove item, then passing, you could pass the game state and the item string and the amount. And you just replace the internals with whatever that call is that you're going to have for yours. In our case, we have it for our HP and our MP items there in this one. We also, if we come down here, we have some these are just some simple toast helpers, right? That sets the timer, right? So 0.9, so 9/10 of a second, right? Making sure, so when the message is set to true up top, right? Or telling it to run the toast, right? Or if the toast label is null, nothing's going to happen. Otherwise, we're going to pass the message that we're supposed to and make it visible, start the timer, and there's the time, right? Then when the time is out, then we're going to set it to false. Next, we're going to look at our item effects. This is a brand new code that we're going to go through line by line, or chunk by chunk rather, not line by line. And this will be added to all the scripts will be updated by the time this video loads. So for our item effects, this file is going to be the brain that the inventory UI talks to when the player presses the use button. The UI itself does almost nothing clever in its own. It's going to ask the script 2 questions. Should I allow this using this item right now? And okay, go ahead and apply it. This script answers those questions, finds the player in the scene, finds the player's stat resource, and then calls your safe, clamped, healing helpers. If something really happened, like HP or MP actually increased, then it tells UI yes, and the UI removes one item and shows the toast. 2 naming details up front because they matter. The script has the class name ItemEffects, which just defines the type. Separately, in the project settings autoload, we'll have registered a singleton instance named ItemEffects2, because since we're using this as a class name, it won't let us use it in the autoload. And we'll do that after this script. And it's explained. That instance will live at the root folder ItemEffects2, and your UI will grab that instance and call its methods, which are types of item effects, and instance names called ItemEffects2 in our inventory UI are different. And they're different here on purpose because Godot will complain otherwise if we have item effects in our autoload or in our global, and then ItemEffects here as our class name. So as we're breaking this down, right, these lines here, okay, so our 2 defined constants. Player group is the group name that we'll try to first when we go looking for the player. Adding your player to a player group makes it finding it cheap and easy and reliable. The candidate stats props is a short list of common property names that developers typically use to export their stats resources from players. This is just in case you may have used stats or with a lowercase s, stats with a capital S, or if you're copying it directly from our videos, then you may have stats_resources. Just trying to make sure that we cover all bases, because sometimes people like to branch out on their own and try to do some coding on their own and change the names. I did it when I was learning how to code, so I just try to plan for that possibility, right? In this next section here, this function is called by the inventory UI anytime the selection changes. Its only job is to decide whether the use button should be enabled or not. It works by running through a set of gatekeepers. If there's no item, then the answer is no. If the item isn't consumable, like a sword or a shield, then the item is also no, because you can equip that elsewhere. Well, you will be able to in a future video. Then we go hunting for the player's stats. If we can't find stats and we can't do anything safely, then we also say no. If all of those checks pass, then we push the real decision into can apply with, which checks things like, is the HP below the max? Is the heal amount positive? Just in case there's typos or something like that. That way the button is only enabled when using the item would actually have a positive effect, that preventing us from wasting potions at full HP. Next, down here, what we have is this guy. All the way down here, right? So this is the do the thing function. The UI calls this once the button is pressed, this first line here where it says can apply to player. Again, we're going to call that and check it, right? We're being defensive here. We want to double check our check here and make sure that we're actually going to be able to apply it, because just trying to make sure that there's no loopholes found. Right? If something changes in the split second between enabling button and clicking it, say the player was healed by something else, then this double checks to keep us safe, right? We grab the stats again for the same reason, always work from a fresh reference. Then we look at the item's effect kind and do exactly one thing. If heals HP, then we call stats.heal and then pass the amount, and your helper returns the effective amount that was actually restored. If it's more than 0, we return true. Returning true is how we tell the UI, yep, the effect did something, go ahead and reduce the inventory amount by 1. If it heals the MP, it's the same story, just with the heal MP function. If it's a revive, then we only do it when current HP is 0 or less. We set the HP to at least 1, but up to the max, and report its success. Anything else that's not recognized by the system returns false, which means the UI won't consume the item. The point of this function is that all the mutating logic changing stats lives here, not in the UI. The goal of the UI is to remain a thin shell that just asks the questions and then reacts. Next, we got this function here. That is our can apply function, and this is the small explicit rulebook that powers the gray state of the use button. It also protects the apply step. For heal HP, we need a positive amount, and the HP must be below the max. For MP, exactly the same shape. It must be a positive amount, and MP must be below the max. For the revive, we only allow it when the character is actually down. Writing this once means that both the UI and the apply function share consistency. If the button is lit, then we already know apply will succeed unless something changes randomly in between. Next, we're going to be going into what's finding our players and stats. So first things first, we got all this right here. Let's come down here and select it all so you can see it all. I have added comments here to help you guys out with your stuff. This might look pretty fancy, but it's just being careful, and it's being written for strict typing. The goal is to handle different project styles without crashing. We start by getting the player up here in this first line, and for the player node, if we don't find one, then there's nothing else to do, and we return null. Next thing is we try the best path. If the player script exposes a getStats method and you do, then we call it. So we check the return value if it is StatsResource before casting, so we never assume the types. If that isn't there for some reason, we try to look for common property names. We don't just poke with player stats because nodes don't have a generic has function. Instead, we ask the object for its property list. That will turn that into a set of names we know exist and pick the first candidate that matches. Then you pass the get prop name and confirm the result is a StatsResource. As a final fallback, we can scan every property in the list and return the first one that is a StatsResource. This is more of a safety net, so the system still works in case you guys rename the properties to something different than what was in the videos. Okay, we just wanted to make sure that we covered all our bases in this. Alright, so next is we got our helper here. Find the first matching property. This builds a quick lookup of property names that actually exist on the object and returns the first match for our candidate list as we're going through these 3 checks here for it, right? And then lastly, our get player node, right? This one is the locator. We first ask the scene tree for a node in the player group. That's going to be the cleanest way to do it. But if you don't have a group named player, then we go through the tree, each object by our node by itself, and look for one that's literally named player. So now what we need to do is that we've gone through that. Let's go to our project settings. We need to add our global. If you haven't been there before, then you'll probably be on general. We're going to go to globals. We're going to look for that path. So what I did was I went here, path, clicked on this folder. I'm going to go into my scripts folder, go into my UI and inventory. I'm going to find this ItemEffects.gd and open that up. It's going to want to name it ItemEffects. If I press add, it's going to throw an error there because it's colliding with an existing class name. Okay, so instead, I'm actually going to name it ItemEffects2, which is why I changed it to that in the code. So now that that's added, by pressing the add button, everything should be set up. Let's go ahead and press save. Now if I press it and I start the game, press escape, we go to our stats, you're going to see that the HP is at 20 out of 100. So let's go back, click on our HP, our potion, and then press use, and you'll see that potion was used plus 50 HP, which brings us to 70. Use it again, it says plus 50, and it removed the second one. But if we press close, we don't go over 100, so I don't have 120 now, I have 100. If I go back and let's click on our bronze sword, it won't let us use it. If I click on our MB, it won't let us use it, so we're good there. So I guess having those extra messages was kind of redundant. You could remove them if you want. I'm gonna leave them because I want to cover all bases and make sure that I want to make sure that there's as little room for error for you on your end as possible. And so yeah, that's it for this video. Just a quick couple of things. There'll be probably about a 2 or 3 week break before the next video. This is my anniversary weekend, so I'm taking the rest of the week, couple weeks off. We're going on a vacation with me and my wife, so I'll be away from my computer. So but I will be back the weekend of the 8th with hopefully, so that means by the 15th there will be a new video uploaded. Until then, keep learning, keep building. I'll see you in the next video.